Good morning. It's not very often I actually have to lift the microphone, so I'm always happy to talk after Jolly. Well, good morning, and it's a pleasure to be here. The Arc of Indiana most certainly appreciates everybody coming to this conference over a couple days. The topic of inclusion is extremely important to the Arc of Indiana. As Jolly mentioned, the Arc of Indiana, the Erskine Green Training Institute, is proud to be a sponsor of this event. I know the Erskine Green Training Institute has a booth, an exhibit booth, so if you have a moment, stop by. One of the gentlemen you just saw in that clip is a graduate of the Erskine Green Training Institute, Alex. He is now working as one of our front desk associates at our Courtyard Marriott in Muncie, and so he was the one who was told that he was never going to walk, he was going to need a feeding tube, he was going to need to utilize a wheelchair. He doesn't do any of those things. He is a phenomenal employee of the Courtyard Marriott in Muncie. The comment cards we get on Alex alone really fills our heart, because that is exactly what the Erskine Green Training Institute was supposed to do, and we're really glad to have him as a part of our team, and he is making a difference each and every day, so it was nice to see that this morning. Thanks for sharing that. As you all know, March is Disability Awareness Month, and so for me, there's a lot of times throughout the year that I stop and reflect and really think back to what we call our pioneer families, the people who kind of forged down a path not knowing what was going to happen, who knew that there was a better life but didn't know what was going to come next. And this month has been actually, and I knew I was going to get a little bit emotional, this month has been really hard because within the last few months we've actually lost two of our strongest pioneers. One was a woman who was a founder of the Arc of Indiana. She had a daughter, and like many families, when her daughter was born with pretty significant disabilities, the doctor said, put her in an institution, walk away, and go on with your life. And Dorothy did put her daughter at Muscatatuck, a state institution, but she walked away saying, this is not going to be my forever. At some point, I am going to bring her home and have her sit at our family table for Sunday dinners, go to church with us, and be a part of our family and our community, just like my other children. And so about a couple years after she placed her daughter in an institution, she brought Mary home, and Mary lived right with her own family where she belonged in the first place. She fought each and every day for inclusion, not only in the community, but in schools. And Mary is a quite active young lady. Actually, she's no longer, I guess technically she's young. She's a very active woman who is very involved in her community, and we're very, very thankful for families like Dorothy who persevered and never gave up. The other person in my life who we just recently lost was Betty Williams, and hopefully you guys recognize that name. Betty Williams, there's no other way to describe her but fierce. When I walked into the doors at the Arc of Indiana in 1998, she quickly became my mentor. She was on the board of directors of the Arc. She was the first person who taught me that self-advocates are the strongest, most powerful voice. She taught me firsthand that whenever there is a decision to be made, that decision should not be made without self-advocates at the table. She really had kind of laid ground already as to what she wanted to do. And so a very few years after I started at the Arc of Indiana, there was a very proud moment when she became my colleague as we hired her at the Arc of Indiana to help do self-advocates training across the state, and actually, quite honestly, across the United States. And she was a remarkable woman. And so this month, I kind of reflect back on those two specifically because inclusion does matter. And you all know that because you're here. You guys know the meaning of inclusion in the sense of it's not just good for the person being included, but it's good for all of us to be around so many different people who come to the table with different viewpoints and different experiences. What a boring world it would be if we were all the same. Wouldn't that just be awful? And I know your position is hard. You know, I know that we all learn differently. I know we all come to the table with different triggers and different, things that impact our lives. But hopefully you're here because you want to take something away from this. You want to learn what is working in other states. You want to go back and make your community better. You want to make your specific school stronger. You know, I can't let this opportunity go by without bringing up a conversation that's taking place across the street at the State House this month. Right now, there's a conversation taking place. On the surface, it's about legal fees, right? There's a lot of legal fees that schools spend for parents who file complaints or file due process because they want their child to be included in their public school system. You know, we are very fortunate to have the Indiana, to have IDEA, to have FAPE. In our Indiana Constitution, it says there's a free and appropriate public education. And somebody at the table the other day said, but does that mean no matter the cost? And to me, that answer is a very quick yes. It is no matter the cost, because every single person born with a disability or without a disability brings value and has a need for an opportunity. And so, yes, we can hide behind legal fees. We can hide behind whatever the issue. But at the end of the day, we need to respect that every student deserves the right to be in that public school system, to learn and be with their peers. And their peers are going to learn as well. And so I just ask you, as you're going through today, I know you started this yesterday, but keep that open mind. Because, again, we know that when you're in that classroom, it's very difficult to manage 30 different people and 30 different ways of doing things. But the way you do that matters, and your impact on them is going to be lifelong. So many of us look back on our school years and could remember a defining moment where somebody paid attention to us, when somebody made sure that we knew that we mattered. Continue to be that voice for those students, to be that voice for parents, because your job and your role is so vitally important. And just know that the ARC of Indiana, the Erskine Green Training Institute, our board of directors, all of our chapters, we're here to help you. Please reach out to us in your local community. Reach out to us at the state level. We will do anything that we can to support you, but just know that you're appreciated in the work that you do, and it really does make a difference. Thanks for spending your time here today, and it was a pleasure to be with you.